Russia arrests over 1,000 people demanding Navalny's release.
Here's a summary of the article.
Moscow, chanting slogans against President Vladimir Putin, tens of thousands took to the streets Sunday across Russia to demand the release of jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny, keeping up nationwide protests that have rattled the Kremlin. Navalny's team quickly called another protest in Moscow for Tuesday, when he is set to face a court hearing that could send him to prison for years. The United States urged Russia to release Navalny and criticized the crackdown on protests. Navalny's team initially called for Sunday's protest to be held on Moscow's Lubyanka Square, home to the main headquarters of the Federal Security Service, which Navalny contends was responsible for his poisoning. Advertisement: police were randomly picking up people and putting them into police buses, but thousands of protesters marched across the city center for hours, chanting "Putin, resign" and "Putin, thief," a reference to an opulent Black Sea estate reportedly built for the Russian leader that was featured in a widely popular video released by Navalny's team. Over 1,600 people were detained in Moscow, including Navalny's wife, Yulia, who was released after several hours pending a court hearing Monday on charges of taking part in an unsanctioned protest. Swedish Foreign Minister Ann Linde, who currently chairs the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, condemned the excessive use of force by authorities and mass detention of peaceful protesters and journalists, and urged Russia to release all those unjustly detained, including Navalny.
This post received a score of 46,000, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Moscow app, chanting slogans against President Vladimir Putin, tens of thousands took to the streets Sunday across Russia to demand the release of jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny, keeping up nationwide protests that have rattled the Kremlin. More than 4,500 people were detained by police, according to a monitoring group, and some were beaten.
Why is it perfectly acceptable to say, "Fuck China," but nobody ever says, "Fuck Russia"?
I don't think you're listening hard enough.
I wonder if this is going to escalate further. There's been occasions where we've seen these sorts of protests in Russia, but they usually fizzle out.
This is bigger than it was before. Also more brutal.
Every day Putin is one step closer to the grave, and every day he makes sure no one else is ready to take over. What a terrible system of government.
It really does seem like he wants to burn the place down on his way out.
When you rule with a fist, expect to also eat a fist once you lose power.
Putin sounds like another crazy Trump. In 2014 he was so paranoid about attending the G20 summit he was followed by a fleet of warships. Australians were having the biggest giggle about it all. Open mouth smile, like was he really that threatened or was he preparing to go to war with us lol. Trump is a wannabe Putin, you got it backwards. Putin has far more money and power than Trump ever came close to.
There is scattered evidence that Putin is the richest man on earth, by a wide margin.
Somewhat relevant older post, where Navalny explains everything, use captions. Probably after each call they contacted others as a warning, and when they got to Kudryavtsev, the operatives were all groomed to expect something completely different.
One of the most blatant bait and switches throughout the entire Trump presidency was the timing of the military trans ban, to distract from Browder's Senate testimony. Worked like a charm, too.
5,135 orange number in the center.
Double that and we got 1 kilo arrest.
Kibbe arrest.
This is the last thing that caused the protests to arise. If you want to follow what's going on in Russia, here are a couple of resources. Meduza, the main one I use. Use Google Translate if you want to, the Russian version contains much more posts. Already gave that one in another comment, but doubling it here smiley face. Here is the video by Meduza that boils today's protests in Moscow down to 3 minutes, the post containing just photos across the cities from today. Keep in mind, the protests were happening all across the country, with the major two cities, Moscow and St. Petersburg, being in the spotlight. Here you will find a lot of videos and photos from the protests, shot by Varlamov himself as well as other people, who can send their videos and photos using his bot.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.